While we've been here, there has been a new fascinating term used for what you've called financial terrorists. And well, here's a phrase, financial vandals. And it's an interesting one. Pension World reels from financial vandalism of falling yields. And they speak to Mark Dowding, the chief investment officer at Blue Bay Asset Management. He has pension fund mandates, and he says about these ever declining rates that, quote, the true madness is pension funds being forced to invest in assets which will be guaranteed to lose, such as in the case of long-dated inflation-linked gilts at real yields of negative 3%, he said. It is financial vandalism, and the government and central banks need to wake up to this.
You know, as you point out, there was a term floated about called financial repression. Then to morph now into financial vandalism means that the press, the mainstream press, well, we were accused of talking about heterodox economics when we pointed out that the phrase financial repression is just a euphemism for stealing. And people say, well, that's heterodox economics. We don't say that on CNBC or ABC or NBC or BBC.
Because it's not orthodox. It's not what all the elite and the economists who go and get their doctorate from University of Chicago, it's not what they think.
Right. Now the heterodox is becoming mainstream because of the adoption of this phrase called financial vandalism. So people are outright recognizing the fact that the policies of the interest rate setting, whether they're at zero or negative, it's about transferring wealth up. It's about moving trickle up financialization where the bulk of the economy's earnings go to the top 1/10 of 1%. Now, I have often used the phrase financial terrorism. That will probably become in vogue in the next 6 to 12 months.
We've said that we have a global empire of debt, and that is fiat currency. It's a US dollar since 1971. We've had no gold-backed global unit of account. It's been the US dollar, and nobody knows how much they print. We can't ever really know how much they print. It does give them an exorbitant privilege. And we've talked about this being a period similar to previous periods in history where an empire begins to decline. It always happens, as Hemingway might say, slowly and then all of a sudden, right? It just, it seems to be coming all of a sudden recently that the empire is like noticeably declining. So here, Vandals, of course, you think of the Visigoths, the Goths, and the Vandals at the edge of empire, and eventually the people let them in and say, yeah, take everything because, you know, our emperor doesn't care about us anyway. And then, but vandalism in this case, they're starting to recognize, here these pension fund managers are recognizing that vandalism, when you think about it, is petty, willful, and destruction of property. I would posit that the empire, in this case the fiat makers, the dollar and all the central banks that are part of that system, they believe it's their property anyway. It might be in your savings, it might technically be in your pension fund right now on their balance sheet, but they could take it whenever they want. And they are taking it.
Right. I mean, there was a book that came out, 25 years ago, Barbarians at the Gate, talking about a hostile takeover of R.J. Nabisco. And so on Wall Street, this idea of barbarianism or financial vandalism or green mail, as it was called, or activist investor or leveraged buyouts, is accepted at a certain echelon of Wall Street. But they've run out of all the assets they can strip. So now they've come to the general population, the mom and pop out there in their pension account, their savings account. They are applying the same vandalism to your savings account.
Yes.
So the barbarians, the vandals on Wall Street, are now actively plundering your bank account with a negative interest rate. And it's not an economic policy. There's no economics behind it that would hew to any school of economics that has ever existed, as Dr. Michael Hudson has said, since the Bronze Age. It's just outright barbarianism.
And it's only going to continue to get worse until all of these pension fund monies are gone.